Today's story was written by Reddit user Moonfly71. 5 years ago, Myantra Prime was besieged by the Azulvardi for the purpose of taking control of the valuable resources discovered on the planet. The Galactic Coalition and its council officially designated this war the Myantra Disagreement. The galaxy called it the War of Strangers. It was an unjust war declared on a planet that had almost no military force to speak of, and it was a war that many of us here in the hegemony of Sol opposed. There were protests, pleadings, and riots, all in a vain hope that our military might intervene, that we might go to the Myantra's aid, if not for the billions of other sentient lives on the planet, but for the millions of humans and hegemony citizens that called the place home. Well, we all know how that turned out. When the war began and the protests were starting here in the hegemony, I was serving on a coalition vessel as part of the Mutual Defence Agreement upheld by all members of the Galactic Council. I was serving with thousands of individuals from other planets and militaries, all united under the coalition's banner for a period of several years. When the war began, I can say with certainty everyone on my vessel, regardless of species or homeworld, were expecting orders any minute to haul ass out to Myantra Prime and drop the hammer on the Azulvardi. The Coalition Navy exists for peacekeeping purposes. That should have been our job. Should have been. When the orders never came, we sent out requests for orders, and we were told to hold our position and do nothing. We were told there was no war to put down, no invasion to stop. My captain was informed that there was simply a disagreement on Myantra Prime. To translate that from military subtext, the council was telling us that, as far as they were concerned, nothing was happening on Myantra Prime, and if we knew what was good for us, we would think so too. We weren't the only soldiers to disagree with those orders, and we weren't the only ones to ignore them either. No less than 15 coalition ships came to the aid of Myantra Prime during the war. 15 ships staffed by crews that all knew we were courting an execution for treason for what we were doing. We did it anyway, because unlike the Galactic Council itself, its soldiers answer to the will of their people. As you might be able to tell from how I'm speaking here now, we avoided that court-martial and death penalty, if barely. I and the other survivors of war were cleared on all charges of treason and conspiracy to overthrow the council, in exchange for our immediate, other than honourable discharge from the coalition military, and summary discharges from our home militaries. Not everybody got treated the same by their own governments going back. Some had it better, and some had it worse. I heard after that the Grassani soldiers I served with had the best welcome, full military honours and medals for their service. Of course, the Grassani had actually officially came to the people of Myantra's protection. As you might imagine, my welcome wasn't as fancy as all that. I got discharged from the military, barely skirted away with an honourable thanks to prior commendations, and a few old friends calling in some favours. I fought to defend a planet of innocent civilians from an unjust war that basically just boiled down to intergalactic theft, from attackers that willingly used a weapon intergalactically recognised as 3 separate war crimes just to fire. And my homecoming reward from the government I had faithfully served for over 10 years was getting fired without losing my military insurance. I was pissed off, just like every moral citizen of the hegemony was back then. I was pissed because billions of innocent lives were put at risk for no reason but corporate greed and slicked palms. I don't know if the higher-ups thought we'd just forget about the top-of-the-line Mk8 hegemony biopower armour that was used to initiate a war crime, or if they just don't care because they think we won't do anything about it. I'm pissed, because so far they've been right. It's been 5 years, brothers and sisters of Sol. 5 years since the War of Strangers. 5 years since the Council and the hegemony of Sol did nothing, While private citizens fought and bled in a conflict they could have ended with a fraction of the bloodshed on their side. It's been 5 years too long, as we have done nothing to even attempt to change the system that caused this. And why is that? Why haven't we done anything to even try to fix the corrupt government that funded these atrocities? Well, I believe it's because this isn't anything we've seen before. While the rest of the galaxy flinches and retches over the blatant greed that fueled this war, humanity has seen worse in just our infancy as a species. Back when we were all still confined to Terra, humanity has seen millions, if not billions, slaughtered for gold, false righteous wars carried out just to get a few more precious oil wells, entire cities vaporized by a single bomb. We have seen the absolute worst that humans have to offer time and time again, and we have long since accepted that there is no cure. We accepted long ago that we are rotten in our core and fueled by greed. Well, I'm about to tell you the best kept secret of the Galactic Council, a secret kept from every single human for fear of what telling us might cause humanity as a whole to do. A secret so well kept that no human is ever supposed to learn it, but one that a soldier or spacefarer might pick up with enough time in the greater galaxy. A secret that is, I think, the kick in the pants that we as a species need to do something. It's simple, really, but no less powerful for it. That secret is this. Humanity knows what we are like. We know how awful we can be. We know of every awful deed we've ever committed because we as a species have seen them firsthand. But the rest of the galaxy? They haven't. The rest of the galaxy has not directly lived through 1,000 atrocities and recorded them in their histories as a testament to our failures. The rest of the galaxy has had the benefit of viewing humanity without our own biases. And what do they see? What are humans in the eyes of our neighbours, allies and enemies? To the Grisani, we are noble guardians and selfless protectors. Where we see a testament to our military overreach and militarisation of a pacifist society, they see the kindness and effort of a people with no dog in their fight coming to their defence simply because we felt they had once done well by us. To the Zathrek, we are the bringers of a new age and doctrine to their people, where our eyes see our final actions in the war as just another weapon of mass destruction, a final blow to break the spirits of an enemy and keep them down like a wounded dog. They see it as a necessary action to force them to accept the lesson we were trying to impart to them. And for the people of Myantra Prime, humanity is not remembered as the species whose government armed their enemies and refused to send any aid even as they begged us for it on hands and knees, even as their cities burned. No, the people of Myantra Prime chose to remember humanity and the hegemony of Sol not as the boogeymen that funded the invasion of their homes, but instead as the people and home of their hero, Hamilton Altman. To the 4 billion people on Myantra Prime, humanity is remembered as the selfless neighbours who took up arms to fight beside them, as the ordinary man who rallied an entire planet's population into a militia, as the people who cried out so hard and loud for justice on the intergalactic web that the entire galaxy seemed to rally to their aid. Friends, to ourselves, we are monsters, selfish things that can't seem to learn from our past mistakes, doomed to always be the villains in our own story. But to the galaxy at large, humans are seen as heroes. The crewman who runs into their unshielded reactor to carry out crewmates, going in again and again without any protection despite the risks. Humanity. The parents of children of any species, willing to fight and die for our adopted children just as we would any biological child. Humanity. The ones who will put themselves down again and again in a well-intentioned but misguided attempt to warn of our dangerous potential and terrifying tendencies. Humanity. Right now, We are failing to live up to that image our allies hold of us, because we are too lost in one of our own making. I ask you this today, do you want to let them down? Do you want to disappoint the Grisani who have kept us fed and healthy for decades? Do you wish to show the Zathrek that the lessons they have learned are flawed, and that their lives would be better if they forsook their new lives as the protectors of the weak and innocent and go back to their warmongering doctrine of survival of the fittest? Would you, if we could do it all over, still leave the heroes of Myantra Prime to fight and die on their own? If it were to happen again to another planet, would you let the galaxy watch as their faith in humanity fails them? Do you want to prove to the galaxy that we are everything we told them we are? Or do you want to strive for more? People of Sol, do you want to stay as we have always been? Do you want to stay the boogeyman? Or do you want to live up to the hopes and dreams of our allies and neighbours? Do you want to be the heroes the galaxy has cast us as? I know my answer, and the answer for every true soldier of the hegemony, the answer we gave when we marched to protect the Grisani all those years ago. The answer that every human on every one of those 15 vessels gave when we sailed for Myantra Prime against all orders. The answer that Hamilton Altman gave when he sacrificed his life to redirect a beam of pure destruction away from a populated planet, and back to those black flags who would deploy such a thing against civilians? I say we try, and fail, to live up to the legend the galaxy has built for us, for even in our failure to mimic our own mythos, we will surely attain more than we have now. So let the cry be for reform. Let the cry be for justice for the Council and Coalition. Let the cry be the saving of our own souls, for the hegemony, for the galaxy, for humanity and all those who would put their faith in us. May we not let that faith be in vain. 108th Hegemony Prime President Edward Alliston's historic speech outside the gates of the Hegemony Congress. This speech is credited with sparking the formation of the New Humanity Party, and for arguably single-handedly catapulting Alliston to the landslide victory in his first bid for the presidency. This was a historic moment not just for the hegemony of Sol, but for the galaxy as a whole, as the words spoken here by Alliston would carry over into his actions and policies in office, actions and policies that directly led to the intergalactic alliance as we know it today.